Hi, Tzili.
Welcome to another tzuzamen. Hi,
Hi.
Tzipi. Hi, Nati.
Nati Charney.
Nati Charney, graduate student at Sarah Lawrence Health Advocacy. Hi, Nati.
Hi, Nati, and let me
Hi.
cut to the chase. They told
Okay.
me, are you the Z generation?
Generation Z. It doesn't.
Oh,
Yeah.
sorry. So you're Generation Z?
Generation Z. Yes. Usually people born around the late 1990s, early 2000s. So in my area.
So I was told that that Generation Z in 20 years will be our leaders and that they are right wing pro-Palestinian.
I
Cutting to the
would.
chase.
Okay. I want to clarify a few things and debunk some misconceptions. I don't think a lot of my generation is right wing. I think a majority of them are left wing.
Oh,
Uh, Me personally, I don't like to label myself politically, but I have definitely been told a lot of my views are left wing. In terms of being pro-Palestinian, I think a lot of people assume being pro-Palestinian means being anti-Israeli, especially now, which I don't think is the case, or for the most part, I think people tend to make a bigger deal out of it because when people say pro-Palestinian, at least in my experience, they mean pro-Palestinian in the sense of ending the occupation, giving them equal rights, especially and like given everything that's happening now with the Hamas attack and everything, people have been saying pro-Palestine means pro-Hamas, which is not true. Uh, People tend to equate the two and conflate them, which is, I believe, a problem. I think if people who are pro-Palestine are immediately assumed to be pro-Hamas, then that means they can't talk about what they believe is to be an issue. And I also believe that if you say you're pro-Palestinian and people immediately assume you're a terrorist, that will breed hatred, and that will not help anyone.
okay. Um, in your list, do you ask you, or I will ask you, do you think that most Palestinians are for the existence of Israel?
I'm not Palestinian, so I don't feel super comfortable speaking on their behalf.
But you can listen
Uh,
to them. You listen to them. What do you think? They keep saying they are for the extinction of Israel.
okay, me personally, again, because you said I went to Sarah Lawrence. I'm a member of their Students for Justice in Palestine like group, SJP. Yeah, Students for Justice in Palestine. It has a lot of Jewish students in it, a lot of Palestinian students in it, a lot of other people who have read and listened and heard about what was going on, not just now, but for the past 70 plus years, and have come to the conclusion that not that Israel doesn't deserve to exist, but like the way it's currently doing things is bad and needs to be stopped.
So what about the attitude of the Palestinians toward Israel?
It depends on who you ask. Palestinians aren't a monolith. Some are okay with it. Others believe that Israel exists on stolen Palestinian land. Others have grandparents who were forced out of their homes during the Nakba. It comes from a lot of pain and it comes from a lot of trauma. Uh, I don't think any of it comes from like genuine hatred. I mean, some of it is hatred, but I think it comes from like hatred that was they were hurt very deeply, and I'm not justifying anything. I really want to make that clear. I'm not justifying anything, but I think a lot of the strong emotions and the anger comes from just a lot of pain and a lot of stuff that was done that was not their decision. And so when you say like existence of Israel, like fair enough, we can have two states, we can have equal rights, or we can have one state with equal rights, but it depends on your definition of the existence of Israel as a country. Like, if you want to talk about here in America, because I'm an American, the existence of America as a country was built on the stolen land of the people who were here first. And a lot of people view that as the same case in Israel, where it was built on the stolen land of the people who were there. Now, whether or not that's true, you can read and listen and debate, but a lot of people feel that way. And that's where I think a lot of the emotions that revolve around saying the state of Israel has a right to exist comes from.
But Nati, taking land, if you think about all the immigrations in the world and people move around, such a big part of the population in the world is basically relocated all the time. I think it's almost impossible to send everybody home, and the whole thing about apologizing for the existence of Israel, I think should be out of the equation. Israel is there and it's not going anywhere. But I wanted to ask
Unless you expel them.
I wanted to ask you something. I want to go back to the Z generation, because I think there's a lot of ingredients that are mixed together in the rallies today, in the pro-Palestinian rallies, because you have elderly people, you have older Jews, older Israelis, you have the progressive Jews, you have the youngsters, you have those who have no idea what they're walking towards. You have those who don't really know what's the story, or you have those that just take advantage of the platform to blast, So how do you it's important to understand each group, what do they stand for, how does it mix, because it looks like full of hatred and full of anti, while not everybody think the same.
Right. So again, I can only speak from my personal experience. I've been to a lot of pro-Palestine rallies. I honestly have experienced a lot of solidarity and people being together. Like, you're right, there are a lot of people who are a lot of different ages. I've seen Jews there, I've seen Christians there, Muslims there, Arabs there, white people there, black people there, Native Americans there, Filipinos there. Like, a lot of people come together for these rallies. And I have not really felt any hatred from them. Like, at least me personally, as a Jew, people are saying it's dangerous to be Jewish at these things. I have not felt any anti-Semitism come from it. I have actually been more welcomed and more appreciated for my presence.
It's like an olive, like you take an olive leaf to cover. I mean, sure, they're happy.
Sorry?
To have Jews. They're happy to have Jews in anti-Palestine, demonstrations.
What?
Should be happy.
It's like she said that they are happy that all of you are coming and welcoming, because it gives them another layer of padding,
of legitimation,
human padding,
of legitimization.
Yeah.
Well, you also have to acknowledge not all Jews agree with Israel. Simply put, the reason why you have so many older people there too is because a lot of them didn't agree with Israel from the start. Like, I know Israel says it represents all Jews, but it doesn't. Like, no country represents one group everywhere. Many Jews don't like that Israel says it represents all Jews because they don't feel like it represents them. And also, there's something to be said about growing up in America when you're Jewish and being told Israel is where you belong. Israel is the country that we all belong to. You need to it's not made out to be like a normal country. It's made out to be like the Holy Land. And that's why you have all these birthright trips and all these things. And it's really like pushed into you as an ideal that, hey, this is the place that we all belong, and this is the place you always need to support no matter what. And I think a lot of Jews grow up believing that, and I think a lot end up forming their own opinions based on their experiences. And like I for one know a lot of Jews who grew up being, and I'm going to say very Zionist, because Zionist means you support Israel no matter what, regardless. You don't treat it like a nation, you treat it like a place that is so holy and revered. And I know a lot of like Jews who grew up believing all of that and then went to Israel and saw everything. And then they went to the occupied Palestinian territories, which they did not know about because America does not teach us about that. Or at the very least, they say it's justified in some way because, again, support for Israel is not just like, here, let's have a debate about what this country is doing and whether it's right or wrong. It's you have to support them or you hate Jews everywhere. And so when a lot of Jews go there and then see the occupation and see all these things, they come back and like, oh, you lied to us. Like you just lied and said it's perfect and that we will all die without it. And then you say, and then most of the, and this is what they say, most of the conclusions that they come to is based on like what we've seen with the occupation and the human rights violations. If we need this state to, if we need like this state to exist the way it does in order for us to be safe, why does it have to come at the expense of another people? Why does our safety have to come at the expense of
Can you
someone else
answer
being
why?
less safe?
Can you answer the question? What do you mean, why? Before the occupation. So before the occupation, what was the situation? I mean, I remember as a child, they don't recognize the before, forget the occupation. They never did recognize. We never acknowledged, unfortunately, that we took their land because that's the only place, and it was legitimized by United Nations, etc., etc. But before the occupation, the hatred toward the Israelis were the same.
I think there are many views and many angles to this saga, because it's very different when you're an Israeli. It's very different when you're an American. It's very different if you're secular. It's very different when
it shouldn't be.
Hold on. I always have a problem with the world, with the holiness, holy country, holy people. When it comes to holiness and religion, it moves the whole argument to another story. There's a very big difference between me being an Israeli, which is my home. This is where I grew up. It's very different if I'm Orthodox in Israel and think it's the holy place and that's why I'm there. And it's very different when you're born and you're growing up in the United States, knowing that you're safe and okay, and Israel is over there. Or if you're an Orthodox in the United, and I'm generalizing big time now, and maybe if you're an Orthodox in the United States and the Holy Land is there, and you have to keep it holy for the sake of the idea of everywhere. And also, I think it's very different between the generation that ran away from Europe or was saved and came to America, and the younger generation who doesn't think this way, and they're more politically involved in Israel and they have their point of view of things. There's so many sides and there's so many feelings and there's so many angles. And I don't think the Israelis understand all the version of the American or all the Jews outside of Israel. I don't think the American can really understand all the point of views in Israel. And since Israel became a country by itself, so the feelings are very different. At the same time, Israel is leaning on the United States, and many years Israel was leaning on the donation from the Jews in the United States. And it later on became that the Americans, the Jews in the United States,
what's your point?
More involved. It's not that simple, and it's very hard to cut it to pieces, but it's very important to understand all the views.
But not just for the Jews, the complexity, the real complexity. Nati, do you see the real complexity of the situation?
There's one more thing that I wanted to say. The younger generation don't feel the urgent of the older generation who said, if we would have Israel, we would have been saved. I don't think the younger Jewish generation in America in general think that if Israel is there, they're saved. What do you think?
I want to address like pretty much everything you said. I agree that I understand how you feel. It's your home, simple as that. You were born there, you grew up there, you have your life is there, your friends and your family are there. It's your home. I understand and completely respect that. And I totally understand where you're coming from. But I think what you need to understand is how it's presented here. The difference is here in America, the way it's presented to a lot of young Jews is there is a holy quality to it. It's not just a country in the world. It's literally like the most important thing, like the country of Israel, not even just the idea, but the country, no matter what the government does, no matter what the people are like it is our ancestral homeland. It's where we all belong. It's what, like, no matter how close you feel to your country that you live in now, or how it's like you're not a citizen of your own country, you're a citizen of the world, you're a citizen of Israel no matter where you are, and you have to support it no matter what, even if you disagree with it. And if you disagree with what the government does, or what, or if anything, then you're a traitor to your people, and you wanted us all to die. And that's obviously more extreme, but like the sentiment of that it has to be either you support Israel or you want all Jews dead is something a lot of American Jews kind of grow up dealing with, and how it's very, very pushed. And like I said before, when you grow up believing that, and when you hear all these great things about Israel, and then you go there and some of those things are true, and then you see the occupation, and then you see everything else, you're like, oh, we were lied to. And that leads to a lot of anger about like these institutions and the people who said that there was nothing wrong with it and that you have to support it. When you're like, well, I don't support it. And then everyone's like, oh, well, then you're a traitor.
I think
Like,
the word lied to is a little bit strong. It's not that everybody is lying to you. It's just they see it differently.
well,
No,
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 I mean,
he's
like a
right,
lot of,
because you and me, I grew up believing that Israel as a society is perfect. And of course, when I grew up,
no society is perfect.
I did see a lot of the limitations, a lot of the problems that Israel has and create, like every other society, like America.
Right.
America, look what's going on here, and you'll see it's a complex situation.
I don't think people think, I mean,
I grew up.
as you grow up, you don't think that Israel
Right.
is perfect.
Right. So what is a complexity? If somebody will ask you, because you are, you are a son of Israelis, or half Israelis and half pure American, but you are, so when somebody comes to you, can you explain any of the complexity of the situation, or not? It's one side.
You mean, can I be objective and unbiased? I would
Yes.
think so. Um, I know a lot of people say no if they know me, but I would think so. Like, yeah, it's complicated and there's a lot to talk about on both sides. Um, in terms of a lot of people framing it as like a difference in religion, I don't agree with it. I don't think it's a difference of religion. I know, like, Hamas is an extremist, like Islamist militant group. I know that. That's, I think, is a problem for them to say they represent all Palestinians when not all Palestinians are even Muslim. Not to mention their methods,
Most of them.
which I don't agree with, obviously. Um, but like when you make it about religion, I think it makes the problem worse because, again, not all Jews agree with what Israel is doing. So, and I think it also breeds a lot of hatred and resentment between Jews and Muslims, which honestly I don't think was even there for most of history. So like I don't think there's like an animosity between Jews and Muslims. I think most of the time we were okay. I think once like it all became more politicized and everything became more about like the land itself and less about the religion, it became a lot more hostile, and then it turned into a problem.
Nati, how do you feel when you see all the students in the universities and also the way it's handled in the universities? How do you feel about it?
Well, when you mean the way it's handled by the universities, what do you mean?
I mean, the way they treat the students or the teachers, or they ignore it, or they don't say anything, or they support it.
Well, I think most universities are against most pro-Palestinian protests. Most universities have like threatened students with expulsion if they like hold one of these protests. Most of the administrations in the universities have claimed support for Israel and want to make their Jewish students feel safe, which I think, one, I don't think the universities care about Jewish students. I think they care about standing with Israel and making a political point. And two, there are a lot of Jewish students from those universities in those Palestinian protests, and some have helped organize them with Palestinian friends. So I think it is more.
Are the majority of the Jewish students?
I don't know if it's the majority, but I do know.
It's important to know. I don't know either.
No, I don't.
Because I think everything you will say or you say should be based on knowledge.
Yeah. And I'm also, that's why I say
you keep saying Jewish students or even outside universities participate, and we don't know the percentage even.
Yeah, I don't, but like that's why I'm saying from personal experience, because like Columbia University shut down the Students for Justice in Palestine and Jewish Voice for Peace organizations. They shut down those chapters in that university.
Why do you think they shut it down? Because I mean, I was at the demonstration on Saturday. No, never mind. A few days ago at Washington Square,
Park.
And when I looked at what they shout and their slogans, it is full of hatred, and there is no differentiation between the state of Israel and Judaism. It's completely blurred.
Okay, well, one, I wasn't at that protest, so I don't know. So I'm sure
you were at a protest, and there was not extreme aggressive posters.
Well,
like from the river to the sea. Let's have the world clean. Let's clean the world from Jews, and more.
Again, speaking from only personal experience, and on one, I mean, Columbia shut down like the organizations that were organizing those protests. Like it closed the organizations, like they're not around anymore. That's what I meant when I said shut down. I didn't mean they shut down individual protests. Also, yeah, I wasn't at that individual protest. I'm sure there are a lot of people who are using this as an excuse to be anti-Semitic, but again, personal experience, I have seen a lot of like very specific differentiation between anti-Zionism and anti-Semitism.
Oh, you didn't see it's blurred completely? That a lot of people, against Israel, against Jewish people.
I mean, I know there are some people who definitely use being pro-Palestinian as an excuse to be anti-Jewish, but I also have seen a lot of, and I mean Palestinians, very specifically draw the line at, we are against what Israel is doing, we are not against Jews. There is a difference between being against like anti-Zionist and anti-Semitic. I've seen a lot of people definitely draw a line and I've seen several like Palestinian organizations say, we don't we absolutely do not condone anti-Semitism at our rallies. If anyone wants to use this as an excuse to hate Jews, you can fucking leave. We don't want that here. That's not what we're about. We're not about doing this. We are about standing up to like what we perceive as oppression, not against hating people. And so that's what I've seen. That's what I've seen. That's what I've experienced, at least, as a Jewish person there. That's what I've experienced from like all the other Jews and like a bunch of Palestinians there who are like, hey, welcome. This is great. We're all here together. That's the vibe, and that's what I've experienced.
Did you see any signs talking about 2 states to 2 people?
Well, I wanted to address I wanted to address what you said first about from the river to the sea.
You don't know what I don't. Okay.
I don't think it's anti-Semitic. I don't think that phrase is anti-Semitic. I don't think from the river to the sea means throwing Jews into the river, mainly because people have been using from the river to the sea to describe the region since before any of this started. Like the Likud used it.
Nobody knows what you're talking about. Let's say that they don't have your knowledge.
Fair enough.
They write from the river to the sea. They mean,
clearing
the Jews. I mean, they don't know about the Likud. You cannot go to the history, because I want to tell you something. One of my main problems, you are very knowledgeable. You read a lot. You listened a lot. Most of the kids,
they don't know anything.
But, not just about Israel. They don't know a lot about other things in the world. but they don't know what they're shouting. They don't know really the meaning of what they say. They don't know how the occupation started, what was before. They don't know what is a Nakba.
I would say you're right. A lot of them don't. A lot of them are seeing what's happening and don't really understand how it started or why it's happening or why it got so charged. But I would say it, I think, inspired a lot of them to read and a lot of them
I
to
hope so.
listen and a lot of them to do research. And admittedly, some of what they found might have radicalized them further, just based on like
Okay,
some,
everybody entitled to their own views,
yeah,
as
no,
long that it's based on some knowledge.
right. It's just like,
Otherwise,
it's
there
just
is
some of
no
them.
legitimizing it.
No, right. It's just like I think it's inspired some of them to do some of their own research, and I think some of their own opinions afterwards were inspired by that research. So I
Okay.
think a lot of them are becoming more knowledgeable, which might justify some of, not justify, but might give more base to their opinions, if that makes sense. And yeah, and like again, even within the context of those signs, like when someone says from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free, I I genuinely don't believe that's a call to throw Jews into the ocean.
Well, I think you're not. Ask
Like,
them. Ask them.
in a
Ask them what
way,
they mean.
I have asked a bunch of
And
people.
what did they say?
Well, when they say like one, when they say free Palestine, they mean, free it from the occupation, free it from the apartheid,
So why
free
they
it
don't
from.
say it? Stop the occupation.
There are, I mean, there
Why
are
they
a
have
bunch.
to go for, it's
There's-
not what you say, it's
It's-
how you say it, how you define it. Because right now, it's okay. I came to my class at the university and I was very honest with them. And I told them, you can think whatever you want. You can be pro, you can be against. Do you know what you're talking about? Say it straight. Don't confuse. Don't blur the lines. Why don't they just say, stop the occupation? That's it.
Well, I think in a way, if you talk about the youngsters, many of them just join where the noise is, where the action is, and what rhymes well, and
Yeah.
they don't even think about
It's a
what they say.
festivity. No, it's really
And
joyful.
part of it is also being naive. You were lucky to grow up in a country that had no problems the way the Middle East is ran, and I think it's not a question of sophistication, it's just the depth and the load air that is filled
To
when
be fair, I think a lot of us grew up. To be fair, I think a lot of us grew up in a country here that caused a lot of problems over there, which I
Well-
think feeds into like in terms of generations. Like a lot of us grew up like post 9/11 and war on terror and war in Iraq, and a lot of
True.
kids who are adults
That's
now
how
didn't.
young
So when
they
you
are.
hear what happened now, near
Well, like
Gaza.
I just want to finish first.
Okay, sorry.
It's fine. Like when people grow up post 9/11 and like during the Iraq war, like that was a lot of the childhood, and we didn't feel the war because we were here. But I think you have a lot of kids now who look back on all of that and who read about like what were the main causes, what was America's response, and are like just very affected by it, and like they're becoming more knowledgeable, and that's informing a lot of their like opinions and emotions. And a lot of people are very emotional, and I like it's important to be objective and like talk about the facts, but sometimes depending on the situation, it's difficult not to be emotional. Like,
Well, that's okay.
yeah, there's a lot of really devastating stuff happening, and for a lot of people, they can't help but be sad or angry, and I think it's understandable, and I can't really blame anyone for screaming no matter what side they're on because it's all just happening so much.
Nati, before we finish, I want to take you back to the home feeling, because you mentioned that you don't feel that America is home for you the way Israel is home for us. Can you just
Really?
Well, it's complicated because America is so much bigger. It's so much bigger. I haven't even been to the like full parts of the country. It's so like huge, and like New York, I can say is my home. New York is my home. I mean, it was also built on stolen land, but that's a different conversation. But like New York is my home, and I love it, even if there's a lot of issues with it. Um, that's I guess that's what I mean. I can I can consider myself an American because I have a lot of experiences here in this country and like with how and I was raised here and I was born here, even if I went to Israel a lot of the time. But like it's you've explained it to me a lot of times and I agree. Like your country is smaller, everyone knows each other, everyone came there for the same reasons. Like here, there's like hundreds of millions of different people who came or were here for hundreds of millions of different reasons. Like it's just so spread out. It's hard to feel like it's home. And also, we're a superpower in the world. Like we can pretty much take on whoever we want. We have like one of the strongest militaries in the world. It doesn't feel like it's all about to like be destroyed at the drop of a hat. So there's less urgency and there's less being scared all the time. Like there's less, oh shit, this might be the one. So like that's what
I just want to ask you your take on the word pride. When people say you're proud to be a Jew, you're proud to be an American, what does it do to you? How do you feel about it?
um well, first, I'm not like super proud to be an American. I think nationalism is a problem, but that's that's way too complicated to talk about. Like yeah, when people say you're proud to be a Jew or proud to be like you can be proud in an identity that is valid, like whether it be race or religion or ethnicity, you can be proud to be who you are. Like there's nothing wrong with being, I mean, unless you're unless you like say I'm proud of being this because we're better than someone else, that's a problem. But if you're proud of just being yourself, I don't really see an issue with it. I think sometimes it can be beautiful, and other times, depending on the situation, it can be harmful, or I don't know. But like for me, I've never really been super well. I mean, I haven't really been proud of like myself for a lot of different things, but I come from a certain ancestry and from a family and from an experience that I appreciate and that I like a lot and that I refer to when talking about my identity, and I consider it to be a very big part of it. So
I heard the last, I don't know the numbers. I heard that some of the protesters, I don't know if they are Christian or Jews, converted
to
to
what?
Islam.
Wow, really?
Yeah, you didn't hear about it?
I
No.
heard there were more American converts to Islam.
Right. That's it.
They, yeah,
Yeah.
I think. I mean,
Did you
hey,
consider?
whatever.
Would you consider it?
Would I consider? No,
It's a rhetoric question, I hope.
no, I'm not going to convert to Islam. It's fine. I respect Islam for what it is,
You
but
know, did you see, because I didn't, but my partner read the Quran. He
yeah,
decided, why should I talk? Islam, Muslims. He read the Quran.
yeah.
It would be interesting for you to
No,
read,
I mean,
and
like
somebody
I've
should even
definitely.
direct you to the parts which, if I don't know, this is what I understood. Maybe I'm wrong. I apologize. That in the Quran there is actually some paragraph against the Jews, but we have two. If you
don't
have the
think so.
Agada, well, we have two.
The
Sentences.
Quran is not the Haggadah.
No, I'm saying I just wanted to make sure I don't speak only against the Quran, but I think we also have. We actually changed in our family the Agada. We don't read the classical ones about destroy and stuff. But we should check what's in the Quran.
Yeah, we should. But I think it works with pretty much any religion where people will use it to do what they want. I think there are good parts and bad parts to any religion. Like there are Buddhists in Sri Lanka who
Right,
use their religion as justification to kill people,
right.
which is bad. Christianity has been used to conquer the world, which is bad. Uh, I'm just, like there's good and bad parts to every religion. I think people converting to Islam, it's their own decision. I think they found something they really resonated with on their own spiritual journey. Um, I think it all depends on how you look at it. But I also don't know if any of this is helpful because again, I don't believe this is inherently a religious conflict. I believe it's more about land and politics. Obviously,
Why
there are
don't your generation decide that you're going to want to change the world, and then think in what way?
well, to be fair, we're not really going to have much of a world left at this point. Which is, well, that's because that's what a lot of us are thinking. It's like we want to change things, but it's so depressing.
No, you
And there's
cannot
not,
afford. It's a luxury. When I say I want to go back to Israel, it's because I would like to be there and make sure it's not deteriorate, which is now.
well, that's
Therefore,
why
we went
most
to
people,
demonstration, and I think we will succeed at the end.
yeah.
And I think that you have a lot of power. I tell my students, come on. The world is going to be whatever you're going to make out of it, because we failed in many
Well, that's
ways.
why I think a lot of students want to be more politically active, because like we do have a lot of power in numbers and in youth and in voices. And we want to do as much as we can in the time that we have and make things better for everyone. And I think when people say, like, most of the chants at the protests I've attended, and not all of them have been pro-Palestine, some of them have been Jewish Voice for Peace, or yeah, most of them have actually, yeah, some of them have just been organized by like Jews calling for a ceasefire and stuff like that. It's just people trying to seeing a situation, seeing people suffering regardless, seeing that it's wrong and want to make it better. I think there's a lot of layers and it's complicated, but at the end of the day, I think we all just want people to stop suffering.
Are you optimistic?
I think of myself as kind of a pessimist, but I've been optimistic.
Okay.
I think we should end with this.
Yeah.
Nati, thank you.
It was really very enlightening to me.
Yep.
Yeah.
And thank you, Tzipi.
Thank you, Tzili. Thank you, Nati.
Nice
Thanks,
talking to you.
everybody.
See you next week.
See you next week.
I hope I explained it well.
Very well.
Very well. Bye.